Plus a little fire. That never hurt anyone.
Welcome to the shop. I'm Jared and this is Wrench Every Day. And today is episode 2 in our series where we're getting ready to go head to head against Brent and the PFI Speed guys in our eBay rematch series. This car next to me is my cherry. It is a Lexus SC300 that Chris from B is for Build purchased for the showdown against Tavarish.
We were challenged to buy 2 cars off of eBay Motors for the purpose of drag racing. We have a very small time frame to build these things to go as fast as we possibly can.
Where it had been swapped with a GM small block V8 of some kind, a TH350 transmission, a Ford 8.8-inch rear end. All the recipes for success. Only they burnt it. Before Chris got a hold of it, this thing was wrong and incredibly slow. And currently does not run. So our goal is to go ahead and get this thing fired up to try to just further diagnose why this thing ran so terribly. And we're gonna need some parts for that. So let me go get those real quick. There we go. So some of the missing parts is we no longer had exhaust manifolds, so I ordered the set of headers off of eBay. I ordered a replacement oxygen sensor or wideband air-fuel ratio sensor for the Holly Sniper kit off of eBay. We have leftover spark plugs. We had planned to change a lot with the nitrous, and so we had like 8 sets, and we used 1. So I got plenty of spark plugs for it. We have got a set of Moroso weights, Distributor advancing weights, which we'll go into more detail later because since we didn't have direct timing control with the parts that we had and the time frame that we had, we just locked it out to static ignition timing, and we got some header bolts. So that's what we've got to put on. What was great is I was able to just jump and literally order all of this off of eBay, and we're ready to install it. Now, if you're somehow not familiar with what eBay Motors is, it is a global marketplace where you can find parts, cars, new, used, everything that you need as a car guy to be able to support your hobby and stress that relationship when you spend way too much time scrolling through that app and ordering parts at 1:30 in the morning when you should be sleeping. But we needed them. Otherwise we couldn't get this car started. So make sure you check out, download the eBay Motors app, and have fun buying parts for your projects. Now, some of you may be wondering why I'm taking any time on an engine we suspect to be hurt to make it run. And well, quite frankly, I'm tired of pushing this car around. It's heavy, and it's just me around my shop here in Georgia. So a hurt engine is gonna move the car better than a not running engine. So we're gonna get it running, see what it does, if we can get the car to move and do a burnout, anything fun. And again, it's possible that this engine is salvageable. There is a theory that the machine shop and I came up with as to how the car can be so slow despite having everything right, or it could just be blown up. Who knows? But anyway, we need to get a running car because Brent and the PFI Speed guys, they know their way around those 4-cylinder engines. Their Freedom Civic, Tavarish's ride that went to Cletus, that then went to Kyle and Boosted Boys, to Brent. I think it went back to Boosted Boys. Now it's Brent's again. The Orphan Civic has got a home, and it's got 2 names. And we've got to finalize a name for this project. You know, it's not an official project till it has a name, but I think it doesn't get a name until it runs. So let me walk you around the engine bay a little bit where we're going to be working and let you just see what we're tearing into. Now, Chris did have the right idea by removing the hood because that hood weighs a lot. But in here, this is our small block Chevy. I believe it's a small block. Everything that I know about these engines, which is not a ton, indicates small block engine. We have compression numbers written on the cylinder head. We have also, or actually that's a valve cover. Let me call it the right thing. On the valve cover, we've got rat poop written on the valve cover. We have pine straw and pine needles and a funk coming from this thing that doesn't make sense. There's no carpet or cloth, yet it smells like shaggy dog baked in the sun with a splash of porta potty. So before we get digging too deep into this thing, we're going to go ahead and vacuum everything out the best that we can, get that cleaned up, and once we've done that, we'll need to pull this distributor and go ahead and, I guess, unmodify it. We'll turn it to top dead center compression stroke on number 1, so we'll be able to drop that back in. We will mock up those headers, and then we'll have to drill and weld in our flange for the O2 sensor. Now, with Chris's car, he called it the narwhal. He had him pointing forward and up. We're going to try to run it kind of traditional under the car, but if it fights me too much, that hood's coming off, and we're just going to point them straight forward for right now, because, again, all we care about, get this thing running and see if we can learn a little bit more, because at this point, we know pretty much the same amount as Chris, which is really nothing when it comes to this motor. So we're going to get that vacuum, we're going to get the cameras going, and try to make this a little bit more sanitary to be around. We've got the distributor out. The first round of kind of crud knocked off. Plugs out. They looked like they did when I last saw the car, which makes sense because it hasn't run really since then. Turning the engine over, there were some tight spots in it, so I'm going to spray a little bit of lube down all of the cylinders. Just make sure that any rust dissolves down some. Unfortunately, sitting like it sat is not ideal, especially in a moist climate like Portland. So they're known for nice, dry, arid air, I believe, right? You know, that's exactly what the Pacific Northwest is well known for. So we've got a little bit of rust in cylinder walls, possibly a sticky valve or two, but I was able to get it turning very consistently without really any binding, popping, scaring stuff after a couple times. So I think we're okay there. One thing I did confirm is our 0 degree mark on the timing cover to the balancer matches pretty much the very top of cylinder 1 travel. So then the next thing I did was confirm the distributor where number 1 was pointing on that rotor was indeed number 1 on the cap. And where this little paint mark is, right there that you can see, that was pointing to the wire that went to number 1 there. So what we're going to go ahead and do is get this advanced curve kit reinstalled after I kind of clean up. Even after vacuuming, that thing is just nasty from sitting. But we're going to pop this partially apart, get our advanced weights back in there, and working kind of like it should for a naturally aspirated motor. And then maybe we can get this thing to fire off. Maybe. And then we can try to figure out everything wrong with it. Which, you know, it's fun, right? Why did it blow up? Why did it not work? Who knows? All right, and we have a distributor with advanced weights back into it. We have confirmed all of our positioning and plug wires were indeed running correct. I've added some labels just to simplify it and make it easy. But what I wanted to do is show you what distributor weight, what advanced weights do, and just kind of a real quick, whoops. If you don't know what a distributor does exactly, just quickly show you what its job is. It's called a distributor because it's distributing spark. It gets it in one central point and has to send it to 8 different ones. Now this is a GM HEI distributor where the coil is actually built into this cap. And that is why it's a lot bigger and kind of heavier and a few more connections going into it than you would see in a traditional distributor. So with these advanced weights, what we did is as the engine turns up faster, the actual counterweights here start to pull out. Oops, let's see if I have enough hands. And as they pull out, you can see that section start to move. This piece right here is moving. And you're not quite seeing the full range. I can't quite lock it well enough single-handedly. And what that does is as that turns, your distributor cap is mounting to that. So as that mount turns, you're advancing your ignition timing. And what an advanced ignition timing means versus retarded ignition timing is from your top dead center point. When you're advancing it, it's how many degrees of engine rotation before the top of the piston travel that the spark is sent and starts the combustion process in that cylinder. The faster the engine is going up and down, generally, the more advanced the ignition timing needs to be because you need to get that flame front started. So by the time that piston is all the way up to the top, it's at peak explosion and we'll start pushing it down. If you retard the timing too much and the piston has already gone all the way up and is kind of just by inertia starting its way down, and then you start that combustion process, you're not getting that maximum power and efficiency. So there's a fine tuning of when you want that ignition process to happen. Because if you start it too soon in the piston's travel up, you hit that maximum energy density and the piston hasn't finished coming up, but you're pushing down on top of it as hard as that flame front is going to be. And that is what's going to make an engine ping. That piston will slap sideways real hard in the cylinder block. You're going to squish the connecting rod and slam your bearings into your crankshaft. Because again, your bearings are kind of your last line of defense. The first line of defense is the cushion of oil between the bearing and connecting rod and your crankshaft. So when you explode too early, you squish the oil out, slam your bearings in repeatedly, and that's how you can damage bearings, roll bearings, and have a bad time in the bottom end. So again, because we didn't have a predictable, controllable way to keep this timing from advancing, because when you're adding a lot of nitrous oxide, you cannot advance your timing too much. You need to actually retard it. You have special boxes, lots of tools that we didn't have. So we just went with lock the timing so we know exactly what it's going to be. This control box has a little bit of timing built into it, and there's a little bit of vacuum advance, but we could predict that and set static timing in a known condition, which would make this kind of a dog when it was out of nitrous. And it should have been really fast with nitrous, but it turns out it was just a dog all the time. So we've got this set up. We are going to get this dropped back in, make sure the engine is on exact top dead center, drop this distributor in, then fab up an O2 sensor flange, reconnect a bunch of electricals, change the oil, get some fresh gasoline in it, and then try to start it. Nothing can go wrong. Absolutely nothing. Except everything. But that's normal. Well, as you saw in our time lapse, the partial narwhal is back. I was really hoping these headers were going to fit and let me run under the car, but immediately it was clear that with the mid plate on the transmission mounting, it wasn't going to happen. So we've got them flipped back upside down, but we now have distributor in. Rough timed where it should hopefully be good enough for a startup. We've got our wiring reconnected. We have spark plugs, we have spark plug wires, we have headers, and this is where do as I say, not as I do. This is a terrible, terrible position for your oxygen sensor, your wideband air fuel ratio sensors, for two reasons. One, going down the road, we're just going to have air like slamming in. These need the turn ups like Chris had before, but I don't plan to keep it this way, so I'm not going any further. Two is something called reversion, which is where when exhaust pushes out, there's actually a small bit of vacuum in between your pulse waves that are coming from your exhaust valves. The way to picture it, it's not a constant steady stream of exhaust gas. There's pulses that come because if you think about it, the valves are opening and closing, so it's pulse, pulse, pulse coming out. And behind each pulsing wave is a void, a vacuum that gets created. So especially this close to your merge collectors and everything like this, every time it puffs out, it's going to be pulling a big chunk of fresh air, which is going to throw sensor readings off. But for our goals, our purposes of what we're trying to do, I probably could have just laid that there and not even bothered with the exhaust stream, but wanted to go ahead and get it there. So it's going to work. You do not ever want to do that. But we have got everything. We've got fresh oil in it. We've got plugs. Yeah, we've already covered it. But we need some gasoline, and I don't have any right here. So I'm going to jump in Johnny real quick, run down to the gas station, pick us up 10 gallons of fuel, and we'll put it in the fuel cell, connect a battery, and see what happens. Okay, so we've got fuel in it. I have got Narwhal 2.0 going. I'm about to connect the battery. I had to rob and steal some battery terminals, so let's connect that. And if nothing catches fire, we'll go ahead and power up, check for leaks, and then try to start it again and make lots of obnoxious noise. Okay, fuel pump is turned on. Sniper's waking up. I hear noises up here. Do we have any spraying leaks? Not yet. Okay. All right. It's trying. I think she could use a little more voltage. That was a nice little puff. The fire extinguisher is in the corner. All right, we're losing voltage. Why are we losing voltage? Take 3, I think. Give me throttle. Trying. Come on, normal. Alright, we need to let the starter cool and get some more juice in that battery. It's trying. Okay, we got more juices. We've got, I don't know, maybe hope. Let's see. What? Maybe. Good news is we're seeing all the sensor inputs to the
sniper, which means it's trying. All right. Always got to be that way. Okay, so we now have a jump box trying to keep power up front so we don't have a voltage drop problem. Come on, that's exciting. Plus a little fire. That never hurt anyone. Stop it. Stop being bad. That's so stupid and wonderful. Holy cow, that's loud. Okay, so we're learning idle air motor doesn't appear to be stepping at all. So let's look into that, fan the shop out a little bit, and keep going. Well, if you can kind of tell from my eyes, I'm looking a little rougher than I have today. There's a lot of fumes in here. And if you notice, there's not a Lexus there. So we got it outside to run it a little bit more, and I've tinkered some. There's still some more tinkering. But it's fired back into life, and we kind of thought it was dead, and it's running better than it ever did with Chris, and I really honestly don't know why. It's just sat dead under trees, and that might just be where the project's name comes from. Again, it's the car's got to earn it by doing something, and I think 14 throttle body fires to finally just rip up into such an obnoxiously loud way from the dead. So you can thank Tavarish for this one. I think we might call it Project Lazarus, back from the dead. We still need to figure out a little bit more on that engine. I'm just gonna let it breathe, but I'm really excited, and just kind of had to share it with you. Also, I think I've blown my cover. It's been fairly low-key here. It's a lot of automotives in the other buildings, and turns out when you have a straight header built small block car screaming, revving, it catches all their attention. You're gonna come and see what the heck's going on. But let's look at just some of the stuff that fell out from underneath. Like, there's critter, skeleton stuff, everything. And just, one minor oil leak, not bad. Yeah, I'm gonna keep these fans running. I'm gonna let it air out. Excuse me. We're gonna let it air out a whole lot more, and I'll clean up this floor, and we'll pick up and figure out our next steps today. All right, we are into the next day. We let the shop air out. We are standing outside. There's Johnny, the Supra, Roadblock, all of our project cars that I'm driving and enjoying while we're working inside. And Lazarus is outside, and I'm still really excited. We got the small block running, and it's running really good.
And I had wanted to take it for a drive, put a draggy in it, and kind of see what it would do in the quarter mile. But I want to show you something, you know, as you remember of our walk-arounds, that's my current seat. You know, moving blankets are comfortable to work on, but trying to go down the road full throttle with, you know, that directly behind my head is not the smartest thing. So I am on the fence of what we do next. Do I go ahead and get a seat mounted into this? Although I'm planning to do and redo that whole road cage, so I'm not sure if I want to build a seat mount built around that or what the right choice is there. But again, we make questionable choices, not stupid ones, and doing a full throttle drive like this, I think would be stupid. We're not trying to get ourselves killed. We're not trying to do anything ridiculous like that. So that's where we're gonna go ahead and wrap up. We've got Lazarus back running. We've named the project car, which is always a really exciting, you know, thing when you're working on cars. Sometimes it takes them a long time to come up with a name, and well, this one breathed fire back into life and has notified all of my neighbors that we have some really loud cars back here. But I'm excited. I'm just trying to figure out what we're gonna do next. Do we go ahead and just throw the seat in it anyway, drive it? Or I'm gonna work on something else that might be really kind of cool for the small block, because spoiler, we're not keeping this engine for the challenge. I've got something else even more exciting coming on that front. So huge thank you again for eBay Motors making this whole rematch possible for PFI Speed and us here at Wrench Every Day. And we are excited to take you along with it. We are not under a tight timetable. We're just doing it right, and we're gonna make these things fast. It's just, we're building race cars. It's always fun to do that. I appreciate you guys hanging out with us. I'm Jared, reminding you to always make questionable choices, but don't get yourself killed. We'll see ya.